and I thought nursing school was hard. Try suing the nursing school. Try completing your nursing education just to sue the school after and work 10 times harder just to get your license than you actually work for getting the education. Like, how does that make sense? All right, guys, happy Wednesday and welcome back to the Nursing Investigation. Now, with this acceptance letter, I had to make sure everything on that checklist was complete because on May 11th, I would be signing my first contract. So well before I signed my first contract, I was already heavily invested in enrolling into this school. I don't believe that enrolling starts when you put pen to paper, because all of that effort and time and money I had already invested matters. That to me is when the agreement starts. I want to show you something interesting that I found. I went ahead and requested my high school transcript, and I just want to note, guys, there is no reason for me to lie. I am not benefited from lying at all. Frankly, this is more embarrassing to admit and go public with than if I just kept my mouth shut. When we talk about admitting yourself into college specifically, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I wanted to go to Harvard. If I submitted this transcript to Harvard, I don't want to put myself down, but they would laugh in my face, right? Hypothetically speaking, like not literally, but you know what I mean, right? Like they would just be like, girl, that's not going to cut it here. Not because we don't think you can do it, but we need that proof on paper that you can, and you just don't have that right now. You have a, let's round it, a 2.0 GPA. If you want to come to this school, you're going to need to attend another college first and bring up that GPA, do some prereqs, and show us that you're ready now to go to a college of this stature. Totally respectable, because they're protecting me and my investment of not only time, but money into the program. If a college just accepted anyone knowing they were going to fail, then it would heavily impact the overall system and that student themselves. It just wouldn't be fair. Why am I going to be put in, let's say, hypothetically speaking, an AP class if I'm just gonna fail it, you know, based off of what's on paper? Now, I can only always apply myself and do better, but now I wanna throw on the screen my high school transcript. And I feel like this is really important because of my GPA. It was a 2.0. When you're applying to a college, not every college has to take you. Hypothetically speaking, let's say I wanted to go to Harvard, such a stretch, right? With this transcript, it's just not going to happen. I would probably have to go to a community college and like take some prereqs and show them like I'm ready for this, because not only does the school not want every student to fail because it would heavily mess with the system, right? That's understandable. But also for my benefit, why would they have me go and invest time and money if there's more of a chance I'm not going to pass anyway, right? So not only are they looking out for their best interest, but mine as well. I go to Jersey College School of Nursing and I present my transcript and it reflects, let's round it, to a 2.0 GPA, and that does not negatively impact my entrance and my admission and my enrolling into the school. I'm like, wow, this is great. They're so supportive. At the time, like I said in earlier videos, it just felt like every problem I had, they had solutions to. If the history of my education shows, more likely than not, my baseline of education is at a certain level, how could one ever expect me to perform much more? How would I be able to get accepted into a school? Although I did pass all my courses and I'm proud of myself, and looking at that transcript, I hope you're proud of me too, because it was not easy, but I did. And then at one point say, okay, that's not enough. Now that you've paid all of your dues, now that you've completed every course required, every clinical, every practicum, every hour needed, we need to make sure you can apply yourself even greater than that. Based on paper, it's not possible, in my opinion. I may be somebody that needs to take the NCLEX twice. That shouldn't prevent me from getting my license at all. I think expectations should match the educational journey. That's all I'm saying. May 11th comes. Important day. I need to show up. I need to sign this contract. I will show you portions of the contract of relevance just so you know what I'm referring to. The vocal point of the conversation was the financial information section, what I'm agreeing to pay the school, because again, I could want to go to the school so badly, but am I going to be able to pay? Already been taken care of, financial aid, grants, my out-of-pocket payments, already knew that, already expected that, had that meeting with the financial aid office. Great, we're on the same page. I see the same number that was given to me previously. Great, we're on the same page. Now move to the right, under program information. My thing was also going to this school, I could do an accelerated program. I could get my license to be a nurse, start in the field, and then I could bridge to work up the ladder, right? And in the meantime, as I'm working as a licensed nurse, I can get certifications that will increase my pay and allow me to do more. Worst case scenario, I can't do an assessment on a patient at a hospital if I end up working in a hospital. This was my goal. At this point, I could have had my master's, but we'll get into that at another time. Start date was set to be May 15th. This is important because at the bottom of the contract, it says this enrollment agreement was signed May 11th. So that is giving me 4 days until I'm to start this program. 4 days. I'm signing my contract. The anticipated coursework completion date is to be September 16th, 2018. This is important as well, because this is what I'm agreeing to. This is everything I've been told this far of what's going to happen, and it all aligns. My clock hours will be at 14:59, which is on my transcript, which I'll show you at a later date. And then the credentials will be a diploma at that time. I'm like, awesome. Literally everything you've told me thus far is shown to me right here. Great. Yes, I agree to it. Wonderful. So nothing else was discussed. That was it. What I was signing to was the payment and that box of the program information. Great. Now, in reviewing opposing counsel's submission of the entirety of this enrollment agreement, there are a few more pages. To me, and from my recollection, there are no other signatures on any of these other pages. That's problematic to me, because if my memory doesn't serve right, where does it serve different on paper? How do I know I was presented with the entirety of the contract and it was thoroughly discussed if I only have a signature on the first page? The fine print is an issue to me, because the vocal point to me and what I'm looking at is the financial information, the program information that we went over. And as anybody, any young person with no experience in contracts or law or anything, you're going to listen to what the person across from the table offering you this contract is telling you. And you would hope that they're relaying all the most important details. So in trusting what I was being told, I signed the contract. It's the first of this kind of contract language, also including things I didn't know or understand at the time. The term that's in question was included somewhere in the materials. And in my opinion, something so important should have been, can't miss it, right there, thoroughly explained, thoroughly right there, but it wasn't. This is what I asked myself today. Were the terms clearly disclosed? Was it defined in a way a reasonable student would understand? Especially somebody who's never really signed a contract before, never been to nursing school, obviously never been a lawyer. I don't know what a predictor exam is. I don't know a progression exam versus an exit exam. If you call it a progression exam here, but a comprehensive exam here. There's no way an average person going to college for the first time, let alone nursing, hasn't been a nurse before, would understand. That's something I question myself about. Was it distinguishable from ordinary finals or course assessments? The point of what's surrounding this nursing investigation, and that's the one term of the now known to be exit exam, predictor exam, progression exam, comprehensive exam. All those terms could be confusing for somebody who's never heard those terms in her life. What it feels like to me is I'm putting my entire nursing education on the line for a predictor exam. Was that clearly and undisputedly relayed to me in a way that I could reasonably understand? You could go through this entire nursing education. You could pass every course, every clinical, every practicum, put in every hour, and you'd have to put your nursing education on the line for an exam, for a predictor exam, a comprehensive, a progression, a predictor exam. Not for your benefit, but your school's. I would have walked out of that office immediately. Immediately no. Why would I invest so much time and so much money just to have a completed nursing education? Remember, my predictor exam was not tied to a course, was not tied to my transcript as far as, the education that was completed. The only thing that predictor exam did to my transcript is withdraw that graduation from me after I had completed said nursing education. So you're telling me somebody who's never been in nursing school before should know that you can complete nursing school, you can complete your nursing education to its entirety and still not be allowed to graduate, therefore be barred from getting your nursing license. You can't even sit for NCLEX. You can't even get your ATT. You can't even send anything to the board because your school has to do it. I'm sorry, it's starting to sound like a custody battle. Like, I feel like I'm in the middle of a custody battle for my license, because to me, that sounds like dad says you have to stay at home. You're not ready to go to mom's. The board, mom being, well, you have everything you need in your bags, honey. Just come home. You can come here. You're ready to leave your father's house. It's time to come to mommy's house. And I'm in the middle, like, what is going on? Every nursing student, before you do anything, ask that school if they require an exit exam, which sometimes can be called, now I know, a progression exam, comprehensive exam, predictor exam. If they make you take one, do you get retakes? How many retakes? Is it tied to a course? Do I need this to graduate? What happens if I don't pass? What are my options? Do you offer remediation? You need to be sure that if you complete this entire nursing education for yourself, what happens if on a slight chance you do not pass that exit exam? What will your life look like? And you also need to look up your state laws and regulations, because apparently this isn't something that nursing students have been vocal about. It's kind of something we just took as is. This is what it is. I guess schools are allowed to do this. And that's not true, because it hasn't really been discussed. Through my research, I found that schools are being sued for this, have been sued for this, are now regulations are being imposed, things are changing because we're speaking up. That's how change happens. Nothing needs to change if nobody says anything. If nobody knows, how is anything going to change? So not only do we have the problem of how these exit exams are imposed, but what happens to the girls like myself who've completed their entire nursing education and are now just stuck in the middle and are given the option of repeating and repaying for their nursing education? That just doesn't sound right, because if I fail the NCLEX, I can take it again. And then even if my state only allows a certain number of tries on the NCLEX, which mine doesn't, thank God, but certain states, correct me if I'm wrong, I think like Texas or something, you can only take it a certain amount of times, and in a certain amount of time, then you have to repeat something. But for girls that end up in that situation, they just do reciprocity. Like they'll go take their exit exam in Pennsylvania, New York, whatever, get their license there, and then just do the reciprocity for their state. So like there's always a way. And when you're faced with something like this that I'm going through, there's not a way, and I don't feel like that's right. How can a school take your money and give you nothing when you did everything they asked, and this predictor exam isn't even required by the Board of Nursing? And even as I was researching this further, the Accreditation Bureau of Nursing doesn't even support the exit exam being used in the way it was with me. Now, they don't create laws, legislation, but I think their opinion matters. And in situations like this, the Board of Nursing should definitely be involved. And thank God, in my case, it was. After hearing about this experience, there was a regulation made, and that's where I am in present time, because it still hasn't been released to the board. So now I have to fight. I told you to make note of this, right? On May 11th, I'm signing my first contract with this type of legal language. Do you know that just a short time, hours later, I was put in an orientation meeting to sign another contract, which would have more to do with the academics, the syllabus, etc. Things that were in the enrollment agreement, but maybe explained briefly a little more, or were supposed to be. So you're telling me I had no time to really go home with this contract? I didn't even, having a lawyer or somebody look over this, wasn't even in the room with us. That's my experience. You're gonna lose your seat in orientation tonight, and you will not have a seat with this cohort. You would have to wait to the next, which is months later, and we're so busy right now, you may not even get a seat in that cohort, and by that point, everything you've invested up to this point isn't refundable, and you would probably have to do it again because it's been so long. When I look back, those are things I think about. So, of course, I signed the contract, right? Because I've been so invested since fall, and then on paper and physically coming into the school, taking care of the entrance requirements since January. Now it's April. It's the end of April. I'm accepted. Now I'm presented with this enrollment agreement on May 11th, and just hours later, I'm now heading into orientation because my classes are on May 15th. To me, that feels rushed. And there's no way the average person, someone like myself at that time, could have reasonably reviewed the information given at hand. Like, hindsight is always 20/20, but looking back, I'm like, what is up with this pattern of invest, 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 and then you get to a point, oh, well, it's all gonna go out the window if you don't do this one thing. Invest, 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 invest. Oh, well, that's all gonna go out of the window if you don't do this one thing. But I wanna skip to something opposing counsel submitted, which some of you have seen. The attestation for the academic catalog. This basically says, I confirm and acknowledge I've been provided with access to the academic catalog. The academic catalog is where they explain everything. It's supposed to be in well enough detail for you to understand. I am now in the orientation meeting. That's why you see only my signature here and not the admissions representative, because I'm not in that office anymore. I signed that contract, therefore I could go to orientation that evening. Further understand and agree that to graduate from my program of study, I must complete each required course with a satisfactory grade, done. Pass the comprehensive evaluation, and then in parentheses it says, see progression testing in catalog for additional details. And satisfy all financial obligations, done. So when I see comprehensive evaluation or progression testing in catalog, by definition, Google comprehensive evaluation, you see it's designed to identify an individual's systems, product strengths, and needs, often to guide treatment, education, or accreditation. To provide a holistic overview rather than a single isolated measurement. That is confusing. That is not clear. Somebody who's never been in college or nursing school, to me, that would read, oh, I have to take something, I have to take a test so you can see, what my strengths are and what I need help with, and you're going to help me so I'm prepared to take the NCLEX. Great. All right, no problem. No problem. Let's take it a step further. Progression examination. This is a comprehensive assessment. Didn't I just Google a comprehensive evaluation? So wait, we have comprehensive evaluation, we have progression examination, we have comprehensive assessment, we have predictor exam, we have exit exam, we have practice testing. I'm so confused. But let's keep going. This is a tool in education, particularly in health sciences, to measure knowledge and acquisition and retention throughout a curriculum, taken periodically. And it continues. These exams cover the entire scope of curriculum knowledge, allowing for longitudinal, I can't speak to that. That's where that 2.0 GPA comes in, guys. Longitudinal, I can't say it. Longitudinal, no, that's right. Longitudinal tracking of, I don't think I've ever said that word in my life. Tracking of student growth and benchmarking. So again, taken periodically. Okay, so this is like my final. In each of my semesters, everybody knows you take a final, right? To be done with the class. Yeah, I can do that. So I'm just gonna go off of what they've provided. I'm not going to speak about the original, what was given. I can't speak about originals, but I can speak about what has been put on the record at this time. So let's go by this, what's presented. I'm not gonna argue that right now. In the course information, let me see just how many pages there are. There are 39 pages of the course information. 39. In a classroom, let's say, of 30 girls. How much of that do you think you are getting through in detail in a few hours max? when you still have to get your books, you have to get your uniforms, you have to do your tour, etc. How much of this could have actually been explained verbally? And I also asked myself, would the dean of the school put herself in a position to possibly say something controversial that would cause an uproar and confusions and like panic to students hearing about this exit exam at the very end? Why would she put herself in a position live in person in front of a whole group of students that are expecting to start school if that would deter them from going, like we were speaking about earlier? Just a question. Like, do you think that happened? Looking at the course calendar, it says my projected completion date was about September of 2018, not including vacation. So this is going to be a few weeks past that. So it looks like I was going to complete my nursing education itself by October. Still seems about right if you include vacations from the years, holidays, things like that. The only days you can miss nursing school, right? And then at the end, we did not make it to page 37. I can tell you that right now. So everything has already been signed. I'm in. By the time I get to page 37, I'm in. Should I be signing contracts before I even know what I'm really agreeing to? Is that normal? Because now this doesn't match the program information I was provided. It said I was going to be done school with my nursing education September plus the holidays. Okay, beginning of October, that's fine. But now I'm set to take progression exams until January of 2019. Yeah, that's all it says here, progression exam. Okay, so I'm going to take this to prepare for the NCLEX? Okay, cool. Cool. So you're telling me after I've completed my nursing education, I can take these progression exams? And then if classes are not completed, and then at the bottom it says, if repeat classes are not completed by 2 attempts on this schedule, you may have to wait up to 8 weeks to take the next one. You told me in the program information that this was 1,459 hours and like almost 70 weeks. So now I'm coming October, November, December, January. I have to do another 4 months. Okay. Okay. That's fine though, because if they're progression exams, right, they're used as an educational tool, right? That's going to help me prepare for the NCLEX. Might as well while I'm waiting to get my ATT anyway, right? I mean, it says classes, right? If repeat classes are not completed. That's a class. That's confusing. Is it a progression exam? Is it a comprehensive exam? Is it a lesson? Is it an assignment? Is it a class? What's going on? To me, that does not read clearly. Because even if we made it to page 16 to dive into what all those names of those tests mean, the title still says NCLEX preparation and progression exam. It still looks like preparation to me. Because what's not clearly stated at this time is that it's a commercial predictor exam. It's not 1, it's not 2, it's 3, and it could have also been 4. That it's separate from coursework, that failing it nullifies completed credits, that it can function as like a de facto replacement for the NCLEX decision, that it may require repeating the entire program after retesting. It's ambiguous. If a material term of that nature affects graduation, licensure eligibility, financial risk, all that investment, like nullifies, wipes out your entire education, that needs to be disclosed so clearly and conspicuously, not buried in generalized language. I was seated at a desk. I was handed paperwork, told what I owed, pointed where to sign, not walk through terms, and given implied deadline language of sign this or lose your seat. The focus was on the payment page, the program information, that section at the top. No one walked through every section in detail. It felt like a now or never moment. And all of this was mandatory or I'd lose my spot. So all that effort I'd already put in would have been out the window, and that is the cycle I continued to face. There was no time to absorb everything that was happening. This all happened in one day, let alone hours. So since the material term in question the most is the exit exam, I am going to dedicate next week's video to discussing that part of the contract where they do break it down a little more and show that to you and how it reads, and you tell me your thoughts. Let's take some questions and comments for the week. Okay, first comment from Mr. Proto writes, they're gonna owe you 7 years of missed potential earnings when you're done with them, along with the lifetime worth of higher earnings you're missing out on. Well, Mr. Proto, thank you for your support. And you know what's actually even more sad? I just wanted to go to work. Tuna Fish writes, I guess even if your name got released to the Board of Nursing and you passed the NCLEX, you have no practicing hours in the last 5 years. The Board of Nursing will make you go back and do courses, probably pay too. All right, so I can't go into too much detail on this as this will be coming out in the future, but as of right now, what I can say, this is not accurate, and I used to believe the same things. That's why it's important to do your own research. It's not true that I haven't had any practicing hours in the last 5 years, but even if I didn't, you don't need them. You just need to take a refresher course, and that's all I can say about that at this time. Brianna says, that actually happened to a bunch of people at my school. They make us take an ATI comprehensive predictor exam to pass. It feels illegal. Thank you, Brianna, for your perspective. And as I do more research, it seems like, yeah, students are suing. Students have won. Regulations are being created. Schools are doing away with them in that sense, or they're tying them to a course. Like, things are changing because I don't believe it's right either, in my opinion. Den says, I knew it was Jersey College before I even read your caption. Praying everything works out for you. Thank you so much for your support and watching. I really appreciate that. I hope to connect and continue to connect with more girls that have went to Jersey College School of Nursing. Sometimes when you go through a lot of struggles in life, you walk away, you turn your back, you let it slide. But now that I'm getting older, I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. I had more of a grit in high school before life started beating me down, ironically enough. than I do now. I feel like once I became a mother, I became softer, more emotional, and life really started to hit me through that experience and onward. So I'm really trying to get to a point in my life where you're not taking advantage of me anymore. I'm not dealing with it. You know, I'm almost halfway through my life now, which is crazy to say. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how powerful you think you are. I don't like when people take advantage of people, especially those with less or without privilege, minorities. I don't like it, especially when you know better and you're doing it on purpose. So I'm just not standing for it anymore. And I don't mean, you know, you're not going to like everybody in life. You're going to have bad experiences. Somebody's going to gently hit your car. Like, I'm not saying go out and sue everybody or make a big deal out of everything, but certain things you don't have to let slide. If you're being disrespected over and over and over and over, and it literally directly impacts your life negatively, it's undeserving, it's being done on purpose, like I'm talking about real harsh experiences, yes, go full throttle. Because even if you're not Bill Gates, even if you're not the president, you know, even if you're not rich, you know, you still matter, your life still matters, and you deserve the same amount of respect as anybody else, especially when you're like a decent human being and you're just trying to do good in the world and help people. So thank you for watching. Thank you for learning. Thank you for searching. I'm now coming up in the search bars and I'm getting in the algorithm. So I really appreciate that. I'll see you guys next week. I hope you have a good week. And I'm not crying in this video. That's insane. The fact that I'm not crying anymore and I'm actually getting through this video, that's work. That is progress. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.